Hey, and welcome to CUTV News. We're coming at you from our studios at 2110 Mackay Street in downtown Montreal. My name's Misha Werbanski. On today's show, we've got news from Gaza and information on how to refuse your rent increase, so stick around. Former astronaut Marc Garneau wants to see a Minister of Science in Canada's federal government. Garneau spoke at Concordia's engineering department Thursday night. He says Canada needs to make science and technology a priority, and he says the country should be developing cutting-edge green technologies to tackle global warming. Garneau will be a candidate for the Liberal Party in the next federal election. He's running in Montreal's Westmount riding. Garneau says he supports his party plan to impose carbon taxes on industry. This, he says, will free up money to invest in green technologies. Down the drain and forget about it. The St Laurence River is a dumping ground for human waste. Wastewater from major cities including Toronto, Hamilton, Detroit, and Montreal go into the river. It's also where our drinking water comes from. Much of the wastewater is treated, but now the City of Montreal is looking to improve the water quality. Mayor Gerald Tremblay says the city has approved a system that uses ozone to remove bacteria, viruses, and other contaminants like pharmaceuticals and chemicals. The city is looking to the province and to Ottawa to help fund the new technology. 2.5 million cubic meters of wastewater goes through the Montreal treatment plant every day. This is about half of the province's wastewater. Montreal's wastewater used to be treated with chlorine, but this was banned in the 80s because of the negative impacts plants and animal life and human health. While studying the ozonation process, the city also looked at using UV filters. The nightmare is over for filmmaker Marnoush Saluki. She will be returning to Montreal. Saluki was arrested in Iran and was not allowed to leave for 10 months. Saluki is working on her master's degree in film studies at the Université de Québec à Montréal. She was in Iran to make a film, she had all the necessary permits, and she holds an Iranian and French passport. But the Iranian government accused her of creating propaganda against them. On February 17th of last year, Saluki was arrested and sent to the notorious Evin prison in Tehran. It's the same prison where Canadian photojournalist Zara Kazemi was held and eventually died. Saluki was released on bail after a month, but she remained under house arrest. Although she's allowed to leave, Iranian officials have not given back the footage they confiscated.
Hello, Jonathan. Welcome to CUTV News.
Nice to be here.
Well, that's great. So we're going to talk about the recent rental increases that were made this past week. Can you tell us a little bit about these adjustments?
For sure. In the province of Quebec, landlords are allowed to raise the rent once per year, and the rate at which they're allowed to increase the rent is decided by the Régie de Logement, which is the administrative body that governs housing in Quebec.
Okay, so if a landlord decides to renovate an apartment, can they then start charging or increasing the rates by a lot, or is there a certain limit?
Well, what's basically looked at is the landlord is allowed to increase the rent, as I said, for renovations. However, they can't just increase the rent to whatever degree they want. There's a certain formula. So for every $1,000 spent in renovations, that would translate into about a $4 increase, and then that would be divided by the amount of tenants that actually benefit from that change or that upgrade in the apartment.
Okay, so there's always a formula to whatever cost is accrued.
Exactly. There's always a formula, and tenants are basically protected as long as they know the procedures to take in order to refuse their increase by the appropriate deadlines.
If a tenant decided they wanted to refuse a rent increase, what are the steps that they should take?
They send the notice back to the landlord, or rather a response back to the landlord refusing the increase, stating that they wish to maintain residence in the dwelling. It is up to the landlord to go to the Régie de Logement to apply for a rent fixation hearing. So the tenant also has power at this point. The tenant can negotiate with the landlord and go to our website and look at the increase rates, determine what they feel a fair increase would be, and in the end, if a student feels that the landlord is ripping them off, or the increase is ridiculous and in connection to, for example, a lack of repairs that have taken place through the year for whatever reasons, it is up to the landlord to apply to the rental board for one of these hearings.
So for a lot of students out there, we might not be up to breast with this kind of these kinds of guidelines. So how can we find out more about this?
Well, students should just come to our office. We have the responses that can be sent back to the landlord. We have all the details in terms of deadlines. We have the percentage rates. Students can visit our website at hojo.csu.qc.ca, and we can also help students one-on-one.
And where is the Housing and Job Bank office located on campus?
We're located in the hall building on the mezzanine. We're room H260.
And what are your office hours?
We're open Monday to Thursday, 10 to 6, and then Fridays, 11 till 4.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Jonathan, for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having
All
me.
right, thanks.
On January 17th, Israel put Gaza under a 6-month blockade. The move was in response to rocket fire launched from the Gaza territory. The blockade has already had severe consequences for the 1.4 million residents of Gaza. It's getting international attention. On Friday, January 25th, some 150 Montrealers took to the streets in protest. CUTV News reporter Mike Pivar was there.
Last Friday, January 25th, a group of Montrealers took to the street to protest the current blockade situation in the Gaza Strip. On January 17th, Israel implemented a 6-month blockade on the Gaza territory, which has since caused serious depletions in food, water, and energy supplies to Palestine's 1.6 million inhabitants. The Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights, Palestinian and Jewish Unity, and the Coalition for Justice and Peace in Palestine organized a demonstration in an attempt to urge fellow Canadians to join their cause. To learn more about local reactions to the Gaza crisis and future demonstrations, check out
online at www.sphr.org.
Academics and media watchdogs are taking on big media for what they say is inaccurate reporting of Laibar Singh. Singh arrived in Canada in 2003 and has been living in sanctuary in a Sikh temple in British Columbia. Media Watch, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, along with journalists Naomi Klein and Abby Lewis, filed a complaint to the CRTC. Ryerson professor Judy Rebeck and communications professor at Concordia, Yasmin Jawani, also filed complaints. They say media organizations including CBC, CTV, and Global reported Singh came to Canada illegally. They did not give the proper context, the complainants say. The complaint says Singh came through a legitimate channel used by many asylum seekers, and they say the way media frames a story can have an impact on legal proceedings. Singh came to Canada as a refugee, claiming persecution by the Indian government. Since his arrival, he suffered an epidural abscess which left him paralyzed in a Vancouver hospital. The Canadian Refugee Board eventually rejected his application to stay in Canada. Singh was scheduled for deportation in July 2007, and then he sought sanctuary in the temple. A protest in December helped delay his deportation once again. Well, that's about all for our show. Thanks for watching CUTV News. We'll be back next week with another broadcast. If you'd like to learn more about our show or to get involved, you can visit the Concordia University Television website. It's cutv.concordia.ca on the World Wide Web. Also, the CUTV News crew is looking for reporters and technicians. If you'd like to get involved, you can drop by our studios. We're located at 2110 Mackay Street, up on the 4th floor. We start every Friday at 11 a.m. if you'd like to join us. My name is Misha Werbanski, and a big thank you to everyone who helped put the show together this week, and thank you for tuning in.